Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear, listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this I'm going to be talking about I don't know if this is necessarily rumored or if it was somebody's concept that they were doing a discussion on. It's on a site called Yonko Design. I will leave the link in the description on YouTube for it for all those that are watching or listening in. And you'll have to bear with me a little bit because I'm recording this and trying to make sure I am looking at the page together. But I'm just going to go ahead and read over this article discussion. It's about a month old at this point, and I saved it when I first saw it. And I meant to talk about this sooner, and I just never got around to it. So I am now doing that. So, Nintendo Switch phone is a capable gaming device and reliable daily driver fused into one. Now I'm going to describe my gripes with this, but I'm also, again, going to go over it before I do. It's been more than 5 years since Nintendo made a comeback with its hybrid gaming console dubbed Switch. Little did they know that gaming phones would mildly jeopardize their dominance in the space. No, they haven't really. They really haven't, because they serve different audiences. To say that is to assume that you are playing the same quality of game on both, which you are not. Now, there are some indie games that are on mobile that are on the Switch. But outside of that, you are not getting the same major studio games on mobile phones that you would get on the Switch. That's just not happening right now. So that is a mistake to say, and an incorrect statement. Even though factual arguments would shun the idea of any current gaming smartphone snatching a lion's share from Nintendo, a capable mobile device could be a real threat in the coming years. So why wouldn't Nintendo annihilate any threat before it becomes a major irk? The funny thing is, I do remember doing a discussion about a Nintendo mobile phone, but I never did it for the same purpose as what this article is doing it for. I thought of it as a companion piece to their current platform versus being something to replace their current platform. Again, there's multiple different reasons for that, but let's keep going. The Nintendo Switch phone is an idea culminating from the need of having a portable gaming device that doubles as a smartphone when not playing games. For someone like me who appreciates the kind of titles available for mobile gamers, but still craves the next big leap to a Switch, this concept has reason enough to meet fruition someday. Okay, so here's the one major issue right off the bat. You're in a deep and intense game that is a major game, and your phone rings and it pulls you away from the game because of how mobile phones work. That's going to be aggravating and frustrating for so many people. Now, obviously, there is potentially a way to fix this. And that would be to make sure that the console maintains the game, but also allows you to pick up the phone. That isn't always going to work well. And then on top of that, blending the game sounds with whatever phone sound is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a horrific nightmare for that to be done. And that will make so many conversations unable to be had, and also cause so much frustration or for concentration at certain points in the game. Again, this is me just highlighting the immediate problems that I see with this concept. Not that I am wholeheartedly against it, but the struggles and hurdles that I know would have to be covered. The IP68 related device sporting a 7.1 inch OLED display, 120 Hz LTPO panel, is capable of playing Nintendo's best titles courtesy of Qualcomm's latest and greatest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. That big display and the graphics intensive titles require a capable power source, hence the 7000 milliamp battery paired with a 60 watt fast charger makes complete sense. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't like the Switch max itself out at like potentially 20 watts? And we're already jumping over what they've done to make the Switch efficient. We're already leaping well above that to incorporate this, which means that this device will be running hot in your hands when it's running those games. It will be running hot because that processor is not designed for what the Switch does. It may be a great mobile processor, but is not designed for what the Switch does, and it will run very hot. That's the one reason the Switch didn't go to, start doing 4K. People aren't understanding this. They really, truly are not understanding this. And when I say 4K, I mean 3160p. Not actual 4K, because actual 4K is a little bit different, but 3160p. And again, people don't understand this for some reason. So we're going to up we're going to amp the wattage, which means the device is going to run hot. And we're going to be doing it on a mobile processor that is not designed to run the type of games that the Nintendo Switch runs. Because we're just going to go based on the assumption that, yes, it is a more powerful mobile processor than Qualcomm's had before, potentially, but it's not designed for the purpose that Nintendo would need it for. Which would mean, one, they'd have to recustomize it, and two, they would be breaking their deal with Nvidia. But let's not forget that they have a specific deal with Nvidia that they would have to break in order to do this. If we're talking about it replacing the Nintendo Switch as the next version of it. That could cost Nintendo a lot more money than it's worth, just to put that out there. Well, all these above mentioned specifications might seem normal to a gaming freak. There's a picture of magnetic Joy-Cons. Those magnetic Joy-Cons will gravitate interest when you're in the mood for gaming. The attachments seamlessly hook onto the device and instantly turn it into a portable gaming device. The gadget is far better than a gaming phone or modern mobile gaming controllers for powerful smartphones, both due to the blue and red Both the blue and red Joy-Cons have a system lock at the back to keep the unit in one piece as gaming action intensifies. When using the mobile device as a daily driver, the lids conceal the exposed magnetic tethers. Only problem with doing it that way with the magnets is that they can potentially weaken at some point and maybe fall off, especially if this device is going to be running hot. Heat demagnetizes things. I know I'm not like a scientific genius here, but heat demagnetizes things. Enough heat, enough consistent heat will weaken those magnets, which would make the Switch, the new Switch that they're talking about, this mobile phone Switch, fall from between those Joy-Cons at some point. It's better to have it physically latch on versus having it magnetically do it, because you are leaving so much room for error for that to happen. So much room for error. And weirdly enough, when I go through it, it doesn't say anything about the magnetic Joy-Cons before. It's not stated in this thing. It's just a picture. And then they just automatically assume Not everybody's going to look at the pictures. Some people will skip them. You actually have to mention these things in your piece before you do that, and it's not even labeled as such on the pictures. Both aesthetically and functionality wise, the Nintendo Switch phone makes complete sense in a world crowded with similar looking phones, gadgets, and accompanying accessories. While we may never see such a phone released by Nintendo, it still lets us cling to the idea of this concept design. Oh, that was the... Wow, nothing to close it. This is a... Ooh, that's inherently bad writing. Okay. So, listening to me, you can understand where there are major flaws for this potential device and what it could mean for the Nintendo branding if they did it. A lot of people don't like the quality of the Switch as is, and you're going to try to promote the idea of a device that is potentially going to be functionally worse. It will be functionally worse. Because one, the interference of phone calls, screwing you up unless you had a lockout phone calls, then that just kind of like defeats the purpose of you having it be a phone. It does defeat the purpose of it. Two, Nintendo would have to break a deal that they already have inked in order to make this device, which would cost them way more money than it's worth to put it together. And honestly, if they were going to go ahead and make a Nintendo mobile phone, they would just go ahead and use what they're working on with NVIDIA anyway. They could literally take the current Switch processor that we know of and make a phone. So they don't have to go outside of what they already have and spend way more money in order to do the exact same thing. Magnetic Joy-Cons, I've already talked about that, potentially would fall off the phone because of the consistent level of heat. 60 watts in your hand is actually pretty warm. And that level of heat could potentially make the daggone magnets become weak. And honestly, it could also weaken the soldering on the chipboard inside of it, which means that certain pieces inside of that potential Switch could come off. There's a reason that the current Switch was designed to be low heat, low wattage. It was to protect the motherboard. Protect the motherboard and the chips inside of it. And people, for some reason, don't get that. Like, yeah, some thermal paste are able to handle that, but over time it would still degrade way faster than necessary. You want your device to be able to last a long time. I'm just gonna give a rough estimate of how this would work in potentially in 2 years. The Switch that you have would be useless because stuff could fall apart. Yeah, again, I'm no expert on this. Like, you can ask the experts, but I'm pretty sure some of them would come up with the same conclusion I do. So, I'm just saying, it's not. I like the idea, I like the concept, but there are problems, hurdles that have to be jumped over for this to work. And it may honestly not be worth the money to do so. Now, I am all for Nintendo doing a Nintendo mobile phone so that they could, one, produce more mobile games. They had a mobile phone that they produced that would be the first place that you get any of their mobile games. That would be a hot commodity for them. That would be a way to make money for them. And that itself would be a good idea, especially if it is a companion piece to their next platform, meaning it links with it. Which would mean that it would have to have some version of the Wi-Fi controller that is inside of the current Switch, or that was inside of the Wii U. It would have to have some version of that. More than likely an upgraded version, but it would still have to have a version of that, so that it can directly communicate with that device, which would, one, enable two-screen gaming, which would be great, and two, because it will allow you to link with your system and with your account, which would be smart. But the way this particular article was talking about it, and again, I will try to remember to provide the link. If I don't, please somebody in the comments tell me so I can remember to do it. It's just one of those things that I can't see this way working. You have to understand what you're trying to design. You have to understand the audience that it's supposed to be for, and you have to understand its purpose. This is more wish fulfillment without thinking than anything else. And again, I don't fault the people that came up with this design, because again, it looks nice. If you're looking at it, it looks nice. It looks like it would be great. But you have to consider the other things on the other end of this. And as far as I'm concerned, this would be horrific. The failure rate of this thing would be massive in comparison to anything that Nintendo has put out. And on top of that, it could hurt their image if it's like that. Let's just think about the failure rates of Nintendo consoles versus their competition. Their console failure rates have always been low in comparison to their competition. There's reason for that. And the way this group is talking about it would cause so many issues. Just so many issues. So again, that's just me thinking about it, thinking out loud about it, talking about it, and I'm just like, nope, this don't work. This really don't work. And now I know they didn't mention anything with resolutions, but I'm assuming that they would want everything to be 3160p versus 1440p. 1440p is the max I think any handheld should go to. That is the maximum I think any handheld device should go to. Because you are going to be running a hot device, running it any higher. It's going to be running hot. It's going to use a lot of power if you're running it higher than that. And that's just my personal take on it. Outside of that, I think I did a thorough job kind of debunking this notion. Again, not that I'm against it, just that there are major things to think about, which I have said multiple times already. So thank you guys very much for listening in. If you found this to be informative or even intelligent, please let me know. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me, and until the next time, please enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.